Hey, what's up? Just talking today about terminal rate and just some other random shit in general. Yeah, it's good to see some familiar faces. Skilled checkmates. Good to see you again, man. Thanks for commenting. Voot, the man, my man. Shout out Serbia, appreciate it. But anyways, yeah. So the terminal rate essentially for like in a nutshell is basically, again, when the government is basically when the Federal Reserve is talking about interest rates, what they're talking about is the federal funds rate, and the terminal rate is kind of like their forward guidance and projection of where they think that interest rate is going to be, right? And so it's kind of like a idea of like what they're going to do with monetary policy in regards to interest rates, right? So some people have been talking about how they're going to raise it. I believe that it was, currently it was previously floating at around like what, like 4.5 percent. Now some people are speculating it's going to be 6. I mean, some of the banks are saying that the recession is not going to be as bad. So et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, I think it is kind of conjecture. Um, whether or not that is actually going to play out that way, I think is going to mostly depend on the CPI prints. But again, that's not really a hot take. I mean, pretty much anyone could tell you that. But yeah, no, that was just kind of my 2 cents. Other random thoughts, I suppose. I don't know. Watching the Warriors game was kind of whack. Uh, I don't know. It's just weird. Kind of seems like Draymond doesn't give a shit. I don't know. Some people point to the rebounding. Some people point to Clay. I mean, I think it's just an overall like generalized lack of. I don't want to say lack of effort because that just seems like something people always say like, oh, they didn't want it bad enough. It was like that old like Skip Bayless thing, sort of when Mark Cuban would be like, no, motherfucker, you think like back when like the the Mavs were able to beat the Heat back, I think in like 2011. He was basically like, you think they didn't want it bad enough? You think you put through all that pressure, you don't play like hard enough to get it? I mean, I think that there is some truth to that. I mean, obviously, Cuban is correct that there are some like X's and O's, there are some like technical like reasons that you can kind of point to and be like, look, the cause and effect of this. But I do think that part of it is definitely just like an overall kind of like hangover, maybe of just sort of a lackadaisical nature of like been there, done that. It's sort of I don't want to say like after you go through all the trouble of like texting a girl or something, or like going through the trouble of like courting her or whatever, and then it's sort of like you do whatever you do, and then it's sort of like, well, it's sort of like been there, done that sort of thing. Again, not saying like that's like a mentality that like I specifically have or just people in general, but I think it is kind of applicable to the contract situation going on with the Dubs right now. But anyways, I don't know why I went on that fucking tangent about the Warriors. Yeah, the terminal rate thing, I don't know. A lot of people again are also like freaking out about the whole like crypto fiasco. A lot of people are trying to say that like, look, this is going to cause like the downfall. The market will never recover. All these things will go really bad. And some people, some of the Bitcoiners will point out, like Jack Mallers, I think had that little interview yesterday on whatever the fuck channel it was, where he basically talked about how this wasn't that big of a deal, and how this kind of separates Bitcoin from everything else. I don't really know how people are coming to that conclusion. I think that's kind of a stretch. I mean, there's some of the Ethereum people sort of like moonboy. I mean, I don't want to say that like, God, what's the way? Ethereum in some aspects to me is sort of a meme, right? Like I love Ethereum, obviously. Like I'm trying to figure out how to dev on it, be better, but God, it's just kind of funny. It's funny in the sense that like it almost kind of seems like so many people just want like a government compliant like ESG coin rather than like what I guess Ethereum was originally supposed to be. And I mean, government compliance again, I guess is a spectrum, and whoever you ask, they're always going to probably say that they stand on the other side in defiance, just because it's kind of trendy to be like rebellious and be like, no, just because you told me not to like do XYZ thing, I'm going to do that, or I'm not going to let this kid play with this toy. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just ingrained to us, or maybe it's just like some part like weird thing. Maybe it's like a male thing, because I do think that like the vast majority of people in crypto are probably men. I don't even know if that's true. Actually, maybe that is true. I did just go to the hackathon, and most of the people there were men. But that also could be like there also could be confounding variables there, like I don't know, the nature of the like STEM aspect of it. But and people will point to like and I don't know, like more systemic issues that go back to gender and society and like sociological evolution. I don't know. I mean, you could point in that direction, but I think at that point you're kind of just it's almost recursive. But I'm literally saying gibberish. I'm saying nothing. But yeah, no. Again, I do think that crypto will probably be fine. I mean, obviously, I think it'll be fine. People tend to overreact. I think again, I still think this is very similar to the whole Mount Gox thing, and it's funny because you see like Dave Portnoy and just random people going off about like all this SBF thing about how they had like this like weird like I don't know like butt eating thing, or not like salad tossing. What was it like they would all live together in like some apartment in the Bahamas or something. It's kind of a funny story if you think about it, but honestly, it's just been talked to death about it. I don't know. I guess people could go on the conspiracy theories about it, and some of the people, like the anti-Bitcoin people, I guess, because it's just funny in the way that like Bitcoin Magazine. I don't want to say like these weird Bitcoin publications and shit, and I don't want to like group all of these like things in together, like that Bukele guy or whatever, the El Salvador motherfucker, and Sailor, and all those other things. And obviously Sailor went on record basically saying that like he himself, for his own personal Bitcoin, he custodies those like cold storage, et cetera, whatever, make sure not your keys, not your Bitcoin. But then like the custodial fidelity bullshit that he has to do because his company is publicly traded. I mean, like, where are you really trying to go with that? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand why people, like, so many Bitcoiners, like, will die on that hill just thinking about, like, look, this is way this has to play out, like government regulation, like, it can't be this way. But you also want integration and you still vote. Like, I kind of just, I fundamentally don't understand, like, the logic of a lot of Bitcoiners. But I also, like, don't understand the logic of a lot of Ethereans. But also, this is probably just, like, the Twitter bias that I get. You know, you're scrolling through, you hear the loudest voices, and obviously the people that I don't want to say the most that are the most like divisive. Is that the fucking word? Like they're the ones that kind of like, you know, like get all like the praise, not like the praise, but you know, that I don't want to say that the followers, I suppose, like they're the ones that basically are like, oh, okay, I like this guy, I'm gonna post some meme, retweet this meme, like, you know, like Simpsons gif or whatever the fuck. um and that just kind of becomes like the culture. But again, I feel like I'm just saying gibberish. I mean, I don't really know what to say. Oh yeah, Luke wanted me to talk about DAOs. So essentially, just like DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Again, I feel like this is kind of one of those words, and again, like I feel like crypto buzzword, but just there's a lot of buzzwords floating around. I've always kind of seen like a DAO from like a, I guess from a code perspective, is it's sort of like you assign certain assets or like certain addresses, and however you want to correlate those addresses. It could be like an NFT, could be a fungible asset, could be a non-fungible asset, but however you want to do it. So like a lot of DAOs have like these voting tokens, right? Like for example, I think like the bigger ones were like Uni but pretty much anything. Like a lot of the tokens, right? You can basically like look at the balance of a certain account and attribute like a certain amount of vote weight tied to that specific asset, right? And I was actually at the hackathon, there was some pretty interesting thing where this project basically made it so you could take any ERC 721 contract, for example, and kind of look at the ID numbers associated with it and create some sort of like voting mechanism based off of like how many of those NFTs, right? So that's a lot of weird words, but let's say there's like a set of like 10 NFTs, like 10 different turtles or some random shit. I don't know. You don't even need a goddamn fucking picture. That really just points to an IPFS that's like 90% of the time. But anyways, I digress, is that you take like these like 10 turtles, and then you vote to see who's going to be like the leader of like, I don't know, the turtle club that week or something. And so there's like ways that you can kind of like cryptographically like verify whether like, oh yes, this person did vote for this, or this person did not vote for this. Or you can even use like zero knowledge proofs to the sense for like, yes, we did, we can prove that like this person voted for like this, but we can't necessarily tell who voted for what, if that makes sense. But you can definitely tell that there's like a sum total of like, I don't know, 7 people for yay, we want this guy to be king, and this guy is the dunce for whatever. I guess the Sacco for this week, I guess. But you could basically put it that way. Some DAOs are more intricate in the sense where like you actually have like these contingent functions, or like and a lot of times they're like transfer functions, or they're like they give access to functions. And so those are slightly more complicated because like you need to make sure that like you can make a contract, you can make a function be ownable by the contract, but the contract itself will only like actually do whatever the fuck needs to be done if a certain amount of like vote threshold is put in. So essentially there is a range of like what exactly is a DAO. And I think that yes, it is kind of like one of those buzzwordy things that a lot of people kind of just throw together. For example, like you can even really just make it a really simple one. Like I was saying before, it's like, look, this is how the community has voted for whatever. And then the devs will kind of take that into account when they're doing their next thing. And like, look, we listened to the community, blah, 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 blah. And we can verify that the community voted for this. Or you can like hard code it in and be like, look, the community like said X, Y, or Z thing. We're voting that we want to send like 5 ETH to this one random account. And then they said that they're going to be able to, you know, figure out whatever component, or maybe it's like a PR, whatever the fuck they're supposed to do, they're going to do, because now we gave them this money and this money is verifiably, like, you can audit this shit. You can look at this specific transaction. Obviously you can obfuscate whatever the fuck you want to obfuscate, but sometimes like over obfuscation just leads to like more contention and friction within a community. So like, what is it really accomplishing? You can make the argument that it's like a net negative. But there is that aspect of DAOs. I mean, I can talk more about it. I hope that answers your question, man, or at least gives you some more insight if you want me to like go in a different direction about it. But yeah, that is kind of my understanding. And again, I'm no expert by no means at any of this shit, just kind of my 2 cents. Also, Copper, you wanted me to talk about Copper. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know jack shit about Copper. I still kind of, I guess I kind of hold the overarching thesis that like commodities in general will probably just tend to trend down. I mean, I can't really see like how they would just spike up in this kind of environment, just in sort of, especially the state of like the euro dollar market in general. I know that the dollar kind of like was on that really like big swing for a minute, but now it's kind of like cooled off and reverted to the mean. I think that's probably the better terminology. Reverted back to the mean, sort of. So I just don't really kind of see where the demand would be coming from, because I feel like a lot of the excess capital is going to go to like satiating or satiating, again, not the right word. What the fuck am I even saying? But like paying back a lot of the dollar denominated debt that they're kind of already on the hook for, or else, I guess run into more issues with creditors. I mean, I suppose, what are they really going to do? Charge higher interest rates? But I mean, I guess it's always a possibility. So, I just kind of would imagine bearish, but I don't really know like the idiosyncrasies, the nuances of like copper specifically, or even like commodities is broad in general. I couldn't even really tell you what the price of gold is right now. I haven't checked that shit in 5 ever. But I hardly even check the price of Bitcoin anymore. I do think that some people did talk about like, oh, it's the end of like crypto, but like Bitcoin's still floating around 16K. I mean, 16K or 15K or whatever the fuck it's at, 17K, I don't even know. But like that's actually a pretty solid like area for me, in my opinion. I mean, it's like a little bit below 2017 high. I mean, I guess if you would have told people that they probably would have freaked out, but I don't know. I mean, I do think that, again, most of the people that are freaking out about crypto right now, I think, are probably the people that, I don't want to say they're in it for the wrong reasons, but they're probably, I don't know, they're part of a different world. I would say that they're probably more a part of like Web 2.5 versus like Web 3. And like Web 3 is such a weird buzzword too. Especially because people are always like, oh, what the hell is a decentralized application? Web3 is kind of just like a meme. And I guess it kind of is a meme, but it's like one of those things that just like, because I feel like if you normalize like the amount of like just in the collective consciousness, like the amount of the frequency of just like what Web3 is kind of like described as or used as in like conversation or media, like, I don't know, maybe like a standard deviation, like plus or minus a standard deviation, you're gonna get like just a lot of meme shit. Maybe if you go out like 2 standard deviations and you get to like those people, like perhaps you are getting more of like a thought through idea of like kind of what it is conceptually. And look, my 2 cents in general is just that like it gives you an alternative to using like the traditional like backends that we use like in normal full stack development. I think like essentially you're having the blockchain essentially be like your view and your model, sort of like in the MVC framework, and sort of the views kind of remain more or less the same, in the sense where like you kind of can just fork the code base, run it locally, and in theory you should be able, as long as you're connecting to some RPC, like the correct RPC, for example, like if you want to connect to like, I don't know, the contract, your data, you're storing your actual backend data on like Polygon, for example, right? You just have to make sure that you're actually connected to that RPC through your browser. You can download whatever the fuck code you want, do anything that way. But yeah, that's kind of just the way I see it, sort of, I guess, in a nutshell. But yeah, I think overall things are pretty good from that perspective. But yeah, no, it's pretty much everything that I had to say about that in regards to today. I don't really know what else there is to talk about. I mean, I don't know. You ever just get that feeling where it's just like, I kind of don't get it, because I was, I guess I did just move back to my hometown, in California, Bay Area, recently, after living in like New York for the extended period, I guess. And it's just kind of a different, I don't know, it's a different vibe, more or less the same. I guess technically just like, obviously not technically, it's still like America. I feel like it's still, people are always like, America's like this capitalist, like weird, this is what happens when capitalism runs amok, and like you just get like these weird like systems. I mean, it's just like a weird, I think it's weird that like we are starting to like paint capitalism in like this broad base of, look, like we're controlling interest rates, we're controlling the monetary policy. Look, there's arbitrary tariffs and anti-collusion, whatever laws. I don't know. And some people would advocate that it's for the best. I mean, honestly, I think most people would probably advocate that it's for the best. But I mean, it's just like, what are you really defining as capitalism, right? Like there's, yeah, some people say it's like crony capitalism. I mean, some people say that this is like by definition, like fascism is defined by like El Fascismo. Again, I've never read that shit. Maybe I probably should. I feel like I talk about it way too much and never have read it. That sounds kind of pseudo intellectual of me, but yeah, I mean, basically is like, what is this really like freehand capitalism? Like, I don't know, but it just baffles me that like, I guess that was a roundabout way of saying it just baffles me that people are willing to like go to work for like every day. And like a lot of people think I'm kind of weird because like I just don't agree. I don't want to say I agree or disagree with that culture because again I'm only 25. Like how the fuck would I know, right? Whether or not I like something or dislike something. It's kind of too early to tell, I guess. And a lot of things are probably going to be like recency bias based or just I don't know. There's going to be a lot of like biases just due to the fact of my stage in life. But I don't understand how like motherfuckers like I see like my dad or something, and I'm just like, how the fuck did you show up to that job for decades and just like went in and just like did whatever the fuck you needed to do at that computer like day after day after day after day, week after week after week, month after month after month, year after year after year, decade after decade. Like how the fuck did that shit happen? I think I would have snapped. But I don't know. I guess there's always kind of an alternative. I do believe that there is always an alternative if you're willing to seek it out. But I just kind of think like every year, maybe it just seems like the alternatives seem like less and less. But I guess I do kind of get that feeling more every time I come home, just because I feel like the Bay Area is so monocultural in the way that it's just like there is an ideal of what is right and wrong. Like you can make the argument it's sort of like where America is trending in general, but it's kind of more of like a centralized point. And it kind of just makes me seem like I need to get the fuck out. But you got to see family, and this was an interesting year. Like the year my grandpa died, I guess actually, which was weird because it's kind of the last tie I have to my mom's side of the family. I'm actually here now. I don't know, decided to pop up for the day. Usually stay with different members of my family, but here today, I don't know. It's interesting. Makes you think like you time with people is limited. People could die at any time. You never really know what's when someone's there one day and not the next. And it kind of makes you feel like you got to go back to your roots and see what's up and just spend time with people. Then you realize why you fucking leave home because your family is fucking like I don't want to say they're like annoying or anything. The family, I love them. But it is what it is. And anyone that grows up with that, anyone that has fucking family knows what I'm talking about. Uh, but yeah, no, I mean it's overall like it's an interesting time. God damn it. I've just been rambling for the last 4 minutes about goddamn gibberish. That tends to happen. I just talked about goddamn gibberish. I honest to God, don't have no idea why the fuck people watch these videos. Like, I remember I posted that video yesterday, and I looked at it, and I was like, 15 motherfuckers watch this shit. Who are the 15 people that decided to watch this video? Like, like 5 people liked it. I'm like, what? Like, most of the shit that I'm saying, I feel like is incoherent, right? Like, I say it in my own head, and it kind of makes sense, but I spend most of the time talking to myself in my own head. I mean, not in like a schizophrenic. Is that a schizophrenic way? Is that just like, or is that just like some level of cognizance? I really can't describe it, and I feel like trying to over describe it just kind of makes it lose its meaning. Kind of like the whole Tao Te Chi thing, Tao Te Ching, Tao Te Ching or whatever. Like with the eternal Tao, like the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao, but that's also such a badass way to start a book. Like you think of the preface of the Tao Te Ching, right? Like Lao Tzu, where Lao Tzu's like, he's like, yeah, you're basically just prefacing your book, basically saying like, yeah, you know what, this is all kind of bullshit at the end of the day. I guess sort of like when Nietzsche's sort of like, nothing is above questioning, but here's why, motherfuckers can misstrew my work about ways to genocide, whatever, why there's a master race, which again, I think was taken out of context. But I was talking to my buddy, Jay Fang last night, and he did bring up this point where I forgot, I think he was quoting Kenny McCormick from South Park. He was basically like, everyone's got their drug at a certain point. You just got to pick your drug and just stick with it. Or else, I guess he kind of just, I don't want to say like a nihilistic funk. I feel like this whole nihilistic funk, existential dread shit is kind of just become like has just become so trendy. But then like, just because something has become so trendy doesn't inherently make it wrong. I think like some things can be popular and like really like cling to the zeitgeist just because they're trendy. But like, just because something is trendy doesn't inherently make it wrong. It's kind of like when you like you say something that's kind of cliche, like there is kind of like a kernel of truth to anything that is sort of cliche, right? Or else like, why would it like resonate with so many people? Kind of like when people watch like those dumbass, like I don't want to say like I love them, but like those stupid like Adam Sandler movie, like 2000 movies with like Judd Apatow and shit, like people like that shit. Or when you play like a song that's just people are like, God damn it, this motherfucker's playing this song again, and even Throwback Thursday. Actually, ironically, I think today is Thursday, so it would be okay. But I don't know. But it is kind of just like, I don't know, like maybe spastic ramblings about whatnot. But I don't know. I guess that is just kind of the way I tend to look at it. I mean, I think people just I don't know. I feel like there's just so much like negativity when you talk to people about shit, because people are always just like, well, I need to be correct. I need to look okay. And then like, people are always like, oh, it's the age of like, we're all insecure about random shit. And like, maybe people like Kanye, like the whole, like, oh, I'm just the first to admit it or whatever. But, it's just, where are you even going with that? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And it's just like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you hear yourself talk and you record it and you try to watch yourself. Sometimes I watch these videos like later just to see like myself talking to myself. And I'm like, because right now I feel like I'm talking to myself. And you talk to yourself. Like I was saying, I just ramble into the void most of the time. Most of the time I just go on like a hike and I ramble into the void when I'm just like talking to nobody's fucking there. Sometimes there's like cows and you just talk to the cows. And you think the cows can understand you or something. But then you just realize that like, wait, you can film it. You can film it, I guess, because then you have a record of what you said. Is kind of like an audio journal, diary sort of thing. But then the rest of the world just kind of knows that you're just rambling about random stuff. But I don't know. It's also kind of just fun to just ramble about random shit. Versus like, I don't know. I feel like every time I'll talk to a friend now, like half the time it just turns up like, I'll FaceTime them and then they'll just start rambling for like 30 minutes about like their job. I mean, not like I don't want to, I care about my friends. And if they feel like they have no one else to talk to about it, like I'm glad they feel like they can talk to me about it. Cause like, that's a shitty existence to feel like something's bothering you, you can't talk to anyone else about it. But I guess you can like ramble to strangers on the internet, which is also a possibility. I mean, I guess that's also just like, what are you trying to accomplish with that? You know what? So I think, it's like people always ask me that, and people have asked me that for so long with like these videos. Like, what are you trying to accomplish with this? Are you trying to like publish that, like do X, Y, or Z thing? Like, there's so many things you could do. Like, there's search engine optimizations, or even just like have a goddamn thumbnail, or just like something to look at besides my like looking at someone's face is just boring, right? Like, you're gonna talk about like random shit, like even if it's like a fucking smoke show, right? You're like looking at, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, you look at like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, there's a reason why they always put those like really beautiful girls on like shows, and then like, yeah, like this is the question, like, what do you think about this, and blah 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 blah, and then I'm not saying they're all beautiful. I mean, obviously some of them are like lesbian-y, and I'm not, wait. I'm not trying to say that you can't be lesbian-y looking and not be beautiful. I mean, obviously, like, there's a chick Eminem used to always rap about, like Portia Rossi or whatever, the one that's married to Ellen, that blonde chick played the sister from Arrested Development. Like, I feel like Eminem made that whole fucking song about how that like lesbian chick was hot. I don't even know why I'm talking about this whole lesbian thing. I guess maybe I was thinking like Rachel Maddow. I don't know why that would pop into my head. It's not like I don't even really know what she's about, but I don't know. At a certain point, you just start rambling. It's just like, what are you saying? What do you like? You just ask yourself like, what are you trying to say? And it's just like you're just confused as shit, because you're like, why would anybody listen to the shit that I'm saying? And then sometimes some people will come on and they're just like, oh, this guy's on like Adderall. Also, I don't get why last time when I used to make videos, like, just sometimes I just talk like this, I guess, when I like start rambling, and I just ramble for the sake of rambling. Like, I feel like people are always like, oh man, this guy, did you do blow this morning? No, I just drank some coffee. I mean, I guess if coffee, it gets to the point where I just start talking like that. Like, no, I mean, have you seen me? No, I'm not. I guess I theoretically shouldn't admit to that on camera. But in theory, if I were to be on cocaine, right, like in a hypothetical scenario, I don't necessarily know if like the shit that I would say, if I would talk faster. I mean, I guess I could talk faster, but like, it's not like I'm like purposely trying to talk this fast. I think it's just like just the rambling nature of where my mind just tends to go. But I don't know. I mean, I guess you just start talking about random shit and people just I don't know. It's just gibberish. At a certain point, it's just gibberish. And I feel like most, like, who the fuck, like, nobody at this point, I honestly guarantee like nobody has like watched up to this point in this video. And like, it's just kind of like, why would somebody like watch this much of just like absolute incoherent rambling? I don't know, but it is just weird, I guess, like the work thing, man. I talk to, like, I just see my friends. It's weird. I feel like I have like some of my friends are split. Like the friends I grew up with that like I know from here, they like good school, etc., whatever. Everyone just, I can't tell if it's like a Bay Area thing or if it's just like a wealth thing or an education thing. I genuinely can't. I don't think it's an education thing, but it just seems like, I don't know. Different parts of the world are different. I don't know. I feel like I need to get the fuck out of here. I love it here. Like, I love seeing my family. I love the weather. I love the nature and shit. I don't really love the culture as much. But yeah, no, I mean, it's home. It's good to see. I don't know how much longer I'm going to try to stay in the state of California. Or at least in the Bay. I mean, I guess Southern California is kind of like basically a different state. I fucking hate when people group them together, and like I'm fucking guilty of like grouping together. But I would say like that different. Anyways, I should probably go eat or something, or I don't know, go do human things so I don't like cease to function. Anyways, all right, peace. Have a good day.